CoinDesk itself is about to be a decade old, and there's all sorts of big stories that we're unpacking in that special series over at CoinDesk.com/CoinDesk10. Now, we turn to someone who used to work for CoinDesk. Brady Dale used to be a senior reporter here. He's now at Axios, and now, I guess as of tomorrow, officially, he will be a published author with a sweet new book called SBF, How the FTX Bankruptcy Sunk Cryptos Very Bad. Good guy. I may have botched part of that, but there it is. Check it out. Go buy it from your local bookstore tomorrow. Brady, welcome. How you doing?
Hey guys, great to be back with the old gang. I think I was on here like 3 times ever, right? But it was usually you guys, so it makes me feel nostalgic.
Best shows ever.
It's good to have
welcome
you here.
Back.
Congrats on the book. It's awesome that you are the first book to market about the SBF and FTX downfall. What's like the spiciest thing that you uncovered? That's my main question, right? I know you have maybe a scoop or two in this book. What is the one thing that you felt was most revelatory in doing this reporting?
I mean, it's in the weeds, but if this is a crypto audience, I feel like you all will get it. You know, so there's 3 interviews with Sam represented in the book, 2 that I did a million years ago that I'd never done anything with, and then 1 that was done, like, you know, as I was meant to be turning the book in, like on the last business day of 2022. And one of the things Sam told me in that conversation, which I think is kind of spicy for people who get the space, is that when they made FTT, you know, there was a giant set aside for the creators, like there is for all new tokens, but all of that set aside always belonged to Alameda, not FTX. I think most of us assumed that the FTT set aside was for FTX, that FTX would own it. But Sam told me, no, that was always earmarked for Alameda. It was, as he put it to me, and this is quoted in the book, their payment for letting a bunch of the executives, check out for a while to build FTX. Because, you know, Gary and Sam had worked, and I think, Nishad would have been there too, had worked at Alameda before they had the idea for FTX. So to me, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, what the implications of it are, I mean, I guess the main implication is that, you know, Alameda was always built on this, basically a meme coin.
Sad stuff. Okay, I'll get the next one. Tell me a little bit about like producing the book itself. It seems like there was like a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of voices. Probably be sort of hard to determine who's the best source here. Was it mostly built on interviews with Sam and like his co-founders, or did you find a lot of sources out there in crypto media that were helpful?
Well, it's mostly, I mean, most of the story, you know, I don't want to pretend like the book has a bunch of like brand new information in it. What the value of the book, I think, is putting together the whole story of Sam in one place, and then also unpacking in, I think, pretty interesting and compelling and sometimes controversial, voicey sort of ways, the way the industry works and how Sam's place in it fits into all of that. So, you know, most of the sources were previous reporting that folks have done. I mean, honestly, a ton of it was my own reporting. You know, I felt weird sort of citing my own like old CoinDesk stories a million times throughout the thing, but they were relevant. But then, I also talked to Sam. I talked to one woman he used to work with early on. I talked to 1 or 2 people who used to work there. One thing I found is that late last year, folks who had worked at FTX and Alameda really didn't want to talk about it. I got one guy hitting me up in Telegram offering to talk to me about it if I paid him, but I was just like, no, man, I'm not going to do that. I don't really know who that was. I don't even know if it was real, so it's mostly built on existing sources and just sort of putting it all together for folks.
It's also built on one fabulous episode of The Hash on CoinDesk TV that featured Sam Bankman-Fried himself. We get a shout out in the book, which is pretty cool. This was famously right after the Super Bowl, in which they had the big Larry David commercial. I want you to unpack why that's a representative detail in what may have been the undoing of Sam in his infatuation with sort of hobnobbing with folks and being seen as a celebrity. You sort of assert that that was a bit of a problem and kind of led to the demise. Can you just unpack that and sort of that thesis that is wound into the book?
Sure. This is a big argument I make in the book. And I remember the day that FTX announced its Miami Heat deal. And maybe I said it in the CoinDesk Slack at the time. I mean, that's the only place I would have said it. I wouldn't have said it publicly, but I was just like, I feel weird about this. You know, I argue that Sam got kind of obsessed with being famous. He got obsessed with celebrity. I do think Sam wanted to do good in the world, but I also think he really wanted people to know he was doing good. And the bigger they got and the more attention that he got, the more excited I think he got about it. So it was very important, I think, think, for him to tell you guys that like he hadn't seen the Super Bowl ad because he'd been watching it at the Super Bowl in the famous person box. You know, I think that stuff sort of like caused Sam to get sort of warped.
Okay, and lastly, you've sat with this story for so long. You know, the three of us, we have to switch our time and attention to so many different stories throughout the day. What's the biggest lesson you think that the industry can take away from FTX's story?
Not your keys, not your crypto, man. I mean, the oldest lesson of crypto is still right. I mean, that's what the Sam story illustrates. You know, people are, you know, normies point to the Sam story and they're like, look, this shows what's wrong with crypto. And it's like, no, this is what shows this. The Sam story shows what's always been wrong with, you know, trusting your assets to a stranger. So, yeah, the biggest lesson is the first lesson of crypto. Like, don't trust, verify.
Okay, Brady, I got one last question for you, and I want your spiciest take. Did your opinion of SBF change, and how did it change over the time of writing this book?
It didn't change over the time of writing the book. It changed as FTX fell apart. You know, I thought everyone kind of misunderstood Sam. I thought that all along. I thought they just didn't get the effective altruism thing and how that motivated him. But I also didn't think he was so crazy that he would put everything at risk like this. So it's when it all blew up that my opinion of him really changed, because this just seemed like horribly negligent. One last other random thing I want to say about the book is just I discovered this weekend that my acknowledgments disappeared from the print version. So there was supposed to be a shout out for Zach in there because he was the first person I talked to when I got offered the deal, or like one of the first 3 people. And then somehow those pages just got lost before it went to print. So anyway, thank you, Zach, for being the person who's edited me the most in the world and for talking to me about this book. Yeah, so at least that acknowledgement is here. And sorry to all the other people I thanks to that aren't in there.
Dude, that's amazing. Thank you. You're very kind to do that, to get that on the record. I very much appreciate it. That's Brady Dale. He just wrote SBF, How the FTX Bankruptcy Unwound. Crypto's very good. Bad guy, for real. Coming out tomorrow. Check it out.